Today we're going to talk about how to calculate the volume of rectangular prisms. The first thing we need to think about is what is volume? If we were using my classroom, where would the volume be? Would it be the walls, or the ceiling, or the floor? The volume would be the space inside this classroom. If we look at this example here, this is an example of a rectangular prism, and the volume are the number of unit cubes that it would take to fill up this shape. A definition for volume that you should write down, please, is the amount of three-dimensional space that an object occupies. This should be in your notes, please. Volume is the amount of three-dimensional space that an object occupies. You can just jot that down right at the top of your worksheet for today. If you need to pause the video to do that, feel free to do that. Volume is measured in units cubed with a 3 because we're talking about filling up a shape. You can't fill up a shape with flat squares. You would fill up a shape with cubes that have a depth. Okay? We're talking about three-dimensional space now, so we've got a 3 for our units. Okay? So we need to think, what does volume look like? Well, if we look at this rectangular prism here, if we were to find the volume of this shape, we would need to fill it up. One way to do this is to find the area of the base. There are many bases in this shape, but a base is the shape that goes through the entire 3D object. So if I take that base there and I stretch it along the height of this shape, if I were to pull this base up, what I'm doing is I'm finding the volume. So we're going to take that base and we're going to stretch it up the height of the shape, filling the 3D object. So if you look on your reference sheet, there is a formula for a right rectangular prism. That's what we'll be working with primarily today. And the formulas given are length times width times height, or base area times height. Please understand that this capital B here means base area, not base as a one measurement. This would be a calculation you would have to do. Most of us will probably prefer to use this, length times width times height. This is a better way over here. This formula, base area times height, is a better way of showing understanding, and this is also more helpful when we get to complex shapes. So you can use either formula. When I look at this shape, what I need to think about is I need to first identify what the formula is. If I'm finding the volume, I look over here, and we're talking about length times width times height. Now, I see that there are more than 3 numbers here, so I need to make a decision of which numbers I'm going to use. When I think about a length, a width, and a height of a shape, I know that those are going to be 3 different measurements on this shape. And what that means is that it's 3 different sides of this shape. So one of the sides of this shape is right here. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and label that as an L. Another side of this shape is right here. Okay? We'll label that a W. Now the question is, what other measurement of this shape do I need? One way to do this is to mark off the shape that we've just found and to ask ourselves, along which other side do I need to pull that shape to make it three-dimensional? And the answer to that is along this 7. I need to pull this rectangle along this 7 to make this into a 3-dimensional shape instead of a 2-dimensional shape. So that can help us decide what our 3 measurements are. So we're going to go ahead and multiply our length, which is a 4, our width, which is a 3, and our height, which is a 7. Now, some of you might be wondering, is it okay if I mix those up? Absolutely, it does not matter which is which. Okay? So I've got 4 times 3, which is 12, 12 times 7, which is 84. Now, I know I'm finding volume, so I'm going to make sure I note my unit is units cubed, kilometers cubed. Looking at this shape, I know I'm supposed to find the volume, so I'm going to write my formula down. This is a rectangular prism. Okay, it's a three-dimensional rectangle. So I'm going to go length times width times height. Looking at this, one thing I notice is that I have a bunch of 9s and only one 8. So I need to consider which numbers I actually need to use. So when I look at this shape here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to outline the different sides. That side there is a 9. That's a part of the shape. This side there is a 9. That's another part of the shape. And this side here is an 8. That's another part of the shape. If you notice, these 3 lines are not parallel. That tells me I've picked 3 different measurements, length, width, and height. Again, it doesn't matter which is which, okay, but I need to pick 3 different measurements. So I need to pick 3 lines that are not parallel. So when I take this and I multiply, I've got 9 times 8, which is going to be 81 times 8, which is going to be 648, again, kilometers cubed. So I'm finding the volume of this shape. Lastly, this shape right here for some people looks a little bit more confusing because it's a little bit angled. However, it is still based off of a rectangle. Okay? This is a rectangular prism, so I know I'm going to write the formula volume equals length times width times height. When I look at this, I need to pick 3 sides that are not parallel because those are going to represent the length, the width, and the height of this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and outline. I've got a 4 here, and I've got a 5 here. Those are not parallel. And should I use that 5? Nope, that's parallel to the green one. Should I use that 4? Nope, that's parallel to the orange one. I need to use that 6. If you have 3 different numbers, you're going to use the 3 different numbers. So we're going to go 4 times 5 times 6. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 6 is 120. In this case, meters cubed. So ladies and gentlemen, your job right now is to complete the rest of the problems on this worksheet. You may miss one. That is okay. If you miss more than one, you need to go back and do worksheet B for this same topic. Please use your reference sheet to guide you through this. Please be careful. Show your work in exactly the way that we did. Make sure that you have your units in all of your answers. Good luck.